Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and we are live from the Dulce Simons Jr. broadcast studio at Olathe Hospital. Welcome to a special edition of the Morning Medical Update World Cup Health Coverage. The University of Kansas Health System is proud to be the official medical services provider for the Kansas City World Cup 2026 host city. We are headed into another week of high heat and humidity, and our specialists, they have taught us it can take a toll on our bodies, and we're going to talk more about that and the dangers of the greenhouse effect with our panel of experts today, which include emergency medicine specialist Dr. Brian Beaver. Joining us again, Dr. Beaver is the KC 2026 Host City Health and Medical Lead. Dr. Dennis Allen is back with us. He is an emergency medicine specialist and Host City Venue Medical Director. Dr. Dana Hawkinson is with us, infectious disease specialist and Director of Infection Prevention and Control. And we're glad to have Dr. Mario Castro, Division Chief of Pulmonary Critical Care and Sleep Medicine with us this morning. If you have questions, drop those in the chat on YouTube and Facebook. We'll ask your questions live on the program. If you are a member of the media, please tell us your name and what outlet you are with. Well, we have been lucky in June with unseasonable milder temperatures and even some rain throughout. July seems, though, to be a different story. Today, we are expecting about 88 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 degrees Celsius. That heat index, though, could change it a bit, 92 degrees. Dr. Beaver, good morning. How are you?
Morning, doing good.
Good. Okay, so what was the impact of the heat during the game on our first aid stations on that first week of really, this has really been the kickoff of that hot and humid weather?
Absolutely. Like you said, we've been really fortunate. We had a really great June. Things really did pick up for us this last match in particular. When it came to our heat-related illness, we definitely saw a big jump in our numbers there, but thankfully, we were well prepared for it.
We've had about 60 medical staff on hand inside and outside of the stadium at our first aid stations. How are they holding up in this heat?
I tell you what, I couldn't be more proud of our medical staff out there. They have done an incredible job, really keeping the number of patients that we need to transport to hospitals very low. We've been able to take care of almost everybody right there on site, get them back to enjoying the World Cup that they came to enjoy. So, they have been working incredibly hard over these last several weeks. Couldn't be more proud of the efforts that they've put in.
What about you? How are you holding up? How does the expert himself do it?
I'm good. It's not as much sleep these last several weeks, but, stay hydrated, keep going, and we're down to, one more week and one last, hopefully really great match here for Kansas City. It's been a great ride.
Yeah. You could sleep later. You got to just push on through. So this week, it's supposed to be the hottest we've seen, as we've mentioned. Does that change, though, the strategy or preparations ahead for the quarterfinal on Saturday?
Fortunately for us, because we've been at the stadium for so many years, we're prepared for dealing with the heat in the summer. And so there's a few little things that we've worked with FIFA on to make sure that we have in place. But overall, excuse me, our preparation stays the same. We're ready for this. We're prepared to deal with the heat. We're prepared to take care of anybody that needs help during these events.
Aside from the heat, what else is keeping medical staff busy?
Yeah, we've had, the usual things that we see out there, trips and falls. Headaches are very common at the stadium. It's actually one of our most common presentations and has been across the entire World Cup. But all the way up to, we've seen some serious things. And fortunately, we're prepared to take care of those and have gotten those patients the care that they need.
Dr. Beaver, always great to see you. I know you got to get back at it, so we'll let you get out of here.
Great. Thanks, Jess. Have a great day.
Hey, you too. Dr. Allen, some of the same questions for you this morning from inside the stadium. Has the cooling tent and first aid care, have they been busier lately? Just
sure.
kind of tell us, give us the kind of some insight.
Sure, they've been busy, but they're doing what they were designed to do. Get in, out of the heat, get rehydrated, get back to the game. I mean, we are transporting to the hospital so few patients because of that preparation and because of that ability. If we didn't have the ability to cool these people down, this would be a mass casualty event,
right,
trying to transport them. So it's been, as Dr. Beaver said, it's been really terrific.
Yeah, the plan is working. You ran the emergency department out at our KCK location for years. What are you hearing from colleagues in the ED about kind of this cumulative effect the weather is having on people?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much like every summer's been in my 37 years at KU. We deal a lot where we have our biggest problems is people working outside and the elderly. And because the elderly, they're on medications, they may or may not have air conditioning. We go to a lot of scenes with elderly patients that have just fans blowing, or they still have their windows locked, and so they can be an issue because they just don't have as much reserve.
Well, and aside from soccer, this is just really good information and tips because, as you mentioned, so many people work out in the heat. We have to take care of our elderly and check in on them. But tell us exactly what is happening in the body, you know, when you have these consecutive days of high heat and that just the stress that it puts on the body.
Yeah, I think it can just add up, especially if you're not staying hydrated, because you get dehydrated, you don't feel well, you don't drink as much, and then your kidneys start to be affected, and then you have less kidney reserve to balance whatever fluid you're taking, and it's just an additive effect. And particularly in our elderly patients, if you're on what we call diuretics, which make you increase your urination, even if you don't have the fluid to do it, it becomes a real issue as these days add up, and then you start to run into issues of, can you run your air conditioner? Can you afford it? I mean, it's just a cumulative thing.
You're right. It's a layered issue. Dr. Beaver mentioned it, just not getting a lot of sleep these days. I know I was flipping and flopping around last night. I think I have a grand total of like 3 hours of sleep this morning. During these higher temperatures, why do we still have trouble sleeping and just kind of keeping our bodies cooled, even when we're inside in the air conditioning?
Yeah, I think I think there's a certain amount you have to cool down just to sleep well. The other issue, and again with the air conditioning, is your house got to be kind of cool. I mean, in the area of 67 degrees, which is nothing for my wife. She's cranking down the air conditioner to 64, you know, to get to bed. But it's just hard to cool down enough and to get the humidity out of the air. Helps to take a warm shower, not a hot shower. Before you go to bed, you get out. That evaporative cooling cools your body down. But you really need to cool down to sleep.
Quick question about fireworks. We've been hearing them after the matches and celebration. What kind of firework injuries have we seen or are you hearing about in the EDs?
You know, nothing past the usual. You know, the burns. We get later in we get after the 4th. Thank goodness the sparklers go away. Nobody does sparklers after the 4th, but they're still shooting stuff off. They're still celebrating. The worst injuries I've seen is throwing big, like M80s and not getting them out of your hand, or thinking you're going to restart your charcoal. It's still hot, but you want to get the fire going again, and so you're going to squirt a little lighter fluid on there, and then it all flashes back. We still see those.
Yeah, we still have to have those reminders year after year.
Yeah.
What about gunfire? I want to ask you about this. It can be popular for celebrating, you know, shooting off a gun, these loud sounds. Any injuries that you've heard about recently or just over your career?
Oh yeah, I mean, every year. As a matter of fact, Tennessee and Texas just this year have children that have been injured by gunfire that happened across a lake. People don't realize it's not just coming straight down, but they shoot. They have no malice. There's no malintent. They're just shooting, they think, into the air, and those bullets can travel a mile and hit somebody. And it's happened, like I said, in Tennessee and Texas just this year. multiple states. We had a child, I think it was probably 2010, who died at a lake, and you just don't know where that bullet's going to go.
Well, and you mentioned no ill intent, but
No.
now you know not to do it, and it's against the law in most of these places. Okay, tell us a little bit about the match on Friday. What'd you see? What was going on in there?
Oh, it was fun. I mean, it was the crowd was a bit one-sided, but they were they were really getting after it. It was fun. We had to go out a couple of times. Thought we were going to have to carry players off, and didn't. They got up, and some came out of the game. Some played on. But these and their hydration break worked. These guys that are playing. I mean, they are incredibly well trained. These are elite athletes, so they can go out there and do this.
Well, and you were saying there's a little bit of a difference. You know, when a football player gets hurt, it's like, you know, stop everything. And it's a little different with the soccer players on a soccer field.
Well, it is, and I'm not as familiar with soccer as I am with football, but they've been playing soccer for a long time, and they know how to do this. And you can see the medical team treating people like behind the goal
while the game's
still going on, which like I said, they've been playing for a long time, so they know how to do this. But it was something for us to train on when they came to town, because we're used to the game stopping and we go out and
get to do your thing,
do our thing, and this is a completely different atmosphere. It's been interesting.
I bet lots to learn. Yeah, we're all learning a lot about soccer, which has been kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, you can stick around. You're not going anywhere because we may have some questions for you.
I'm here.
That's good. My co-host.
Absolutely.
I love this.
You looked lost the last time.
I did. I was so sad and lonely without you. I had to do it all by myself. So,
Exactly.
Okay, don't make me do that again.
Exactly.
Dr. Hawkinson, good morning. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Hey, good to see. Did you watch the match on a Friday?
Yeah, I've watched many matches. I'll continue to watch.
I know. I'm kind of getting into it a little bit, so it's been kind of good. It's been good. How are we looking after the 4th in terms of infectious diseases? Let's talk your lane a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite soon after the 4th of July to be expecting any real big or large jump in any particular infectious diseases. Again, I think mostly what we'd be talking about here is, of course, respiratory infections. Those are really overall low in the community and the United States right now, but also GI illnesses. And again, those can be typical, and you can see those and really in any seasonality at all. But right now, I don't think there's really anything on the radar to be concerned about in excess right now in the United States. Certainly, we always need to be aware right now of vector-borne diseases, which are mosquito diseases and tick-borne diseases. The biggest or most prominent mosquito-borne disease around the United States and around our community is West Nile virus. Currently, it's low here in our community, but in other places of the U.S., they have seen an increase. We typically expect our increase maybe in that later July, August period, but we'll wait and see. Otherwise, really nothing in excess right now.
Hawk, does the heat influence the spread of infectious diseases?
It can be one of maybe a confounding or one of the multifactorial issues. Certainly we know cold can be, especially when people are indoors, close proximity, not practicing good public health pillars such as covering your cough, not going out if you're sick, not doing adequate hand hygiene. Certainly we know heat, again, if you are indoors and trying to stay cool and in those small places, those can still be factors. But other thing, not than that, again, when you also have a lot of rain and you have mosquitoes, which may be breeding more, you can certainly have more risk of mosquito-borne infections and getting bit by those mosquitoes, but that would be really the extent of it.
When patients come into our clinics, we always ask if they've had any foreign travel so that we can screen for infectious diseases. Should patients think differently about how they answer that question if they've been at FanFest or the matches?
Not for those other scary things that we think about, especially Ebola. We know, unfortunately, those cases continue to climb over in the Congo and Uganda. But certainly, maybe you can consider it if you start having a GI illness or other members in your party or your family that you are with at those events have a GI illness as well. Certainly think about things like norovirus, but that would probably be the most predominant kind of thing to evaluate.
Dr. Dana Hawkinson, thanks so much. Good to see you.
All right.
Well, we want to welcome Dr. Mario Castro this morning. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. So tell us a little bit about your love of soccer. Are you, have you been watching? Have you always loved it?
I've definitely been watching. That game last night was very exciting with England and some top-notch soccer that we've really been enjoying here in Kansas City. I think more involved than I've ever seen before.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun. Well, so glad to have you this morning. We hear about the term greenhouse effect. So explain what that really means.
Well, greenhouse effect refers to that trapping of those, that atmospheric heat from gases that don't allow, once that sunlight hits us on the Earth, doesn't allow it to go out into the atmosphere. And often these are just water vapor out there, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and methane. These are all these gases that kind of keep things trapped within this atmosphere.
So you're, of course, a lung specialist. From your perspective, why does that matter?
Well, my patients that have limited lung function, either from asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, already go into a situation with limited lung function. And so they just don't have that same reserve as a normal young individual would have. And because of that, when they're stressed, just from exposure to heat, we know that that heat exposure causes your heart rate to go up, causes your cardiac output to go up. These things are stressors. And so when you just don't have that reserve, then you're going to be more symptomatic, have more problems when you're exposed to these high heat levels.
Dr. Castro, is there a connection between the rising temperatures and respiratory health?
Well, I think the rising temperatures really just bring to light those respiratory illnesses that Hawkeye was mentioned, but also in terms of those that limit us worldwide. Things like asthma and COPD are quite common, up to 8% of the population, and so they're just not used to dealing with this high heat levels.
So should our visitors for the World Cup, should they be checking air quality index numbers before spending the day outdoors? Will it matter?
Yeah, I think this is all about planning ahead, right? So not getting into a situation where you're not prepared. And so understanding what that predictions in terms of heat are going to be, but also looking at the heat index in terms of also encountering kind of what's happening in terms of the humidity. But also we, in our patients, ask them to check kind of what is happening to air pollution levels. So there are a number of different air pollution quality index metrics that are out there. And so we ask them just to, I have one on my phone that I utilize, just to keep an eye on that. And when those high levels of pollutants are in the system, it might be a day you want to refocus kind of what you were planning to do and maybe do it a little bit different. Maybe do some more indoor activity as opposed to going out there when there are high ozone levels.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what if it's a perfectly beautiful, clear blue sky? It seems like a sunny day. Can that be unhealthy for our lungs too? Anything to look out for there?
Well, just that, that heat index can rise even on those perfect sunny days. And we just need to be cautious about that and be prepared. So when my patients come into me, I said, well, did you bring your inhaler with you? I would say at least 50% of the time they forgot. And so making sure that they're prepared, that they have their rescue medications on hand to help open up those windpipes so they can breathe better. Make sure if they're going to have a full-blown attack that they have rescue medication like steroids that some of our patients have to take when they have an exacerbation or a full-blown attack. That preparedness, just like we've talked about with the FIFA event, is really key for our patients that have underlying respiratory illnesses.
All great stuff this morning. But Dr. Castro, if you had one big piece of advice to stay healthy during a hot Kansas City summer day, what would it be?
Stay cool and pay attention to kind of what's your limitations are for yourself, and stay hydrated. Those are the key aspects.
All right, let's get to some questions. We've got some good ones coming in from folks watching this morning. Tiffany wants to know, Dr. Allen, any issues about storing medication in hot cars?
I think there's some medication, for most of them, it doesn't make any difference. I think the biggest one that you have to think about is insulin. We've had patients get into issues that have come to the ER. It's like, my sugar's high, my insulin's not working, and it's been in their car, and it has to be refrigerated. So I think the biggest one is insulin. For most, I don't think it would make a whole lot of difference.
Jeremy wants to know, does the high humidity affect the speed you dehydrate, as well as just overall making you feel hotter faster?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It absolutely does, because in the high humidity, you're sweating, it won't work. That's why you're sweating more. It just won't work, because the idea of sweating is for the sweat to evaporate off your skin and cool you down. In high humidity, that water on your skin has nowhere to go. It won't go off into the air, so you're going to overheat faster.
Dr. Castro, Scott wants to know, why do I feel short of breath when the temperature is high? Is this heat affecting my asthma?
Well, just a normal individual, that heat causes your cardiac output to go up, and so your heart's going to be working harder. And so if you have underlying respiratory limitations, say from your asthma, you're going to feel that because you just don't have that same reserve. So for my asthma patients, I want to make sure that they have their inhaler beforehand. If they're going to go out into that high and humid area, I say take your inhaler, your rescue medication, your albuterol, to help open up your windpipes so you can breathe and exchange that air easier. You need to do it about 15-20 minutes before that exposure. So plan ahead, take your medications, and especially if you're going to do any type of exercise in this weather, you have to pre-medicate and prepare yourself.
Good tip. Okay, Dr. Allen, Amy is asking, what is your #1 best tip to stay out of the ED this summer?
In the summer, I would say, be careful. It's trauma. It's people getting out and trying to do things, whether they're children breaking their arms, whether it's adults on motorcycles. People are just out doing more, and we see a big uptick in trauma. So be careful. Be careful.
And then last question is from Harrison. As someone who is a type 1 diabetic, what should I watch out for, especially in the heat? You had mentioned the medication. Keep that out of the car. Anything else for a diabetic?
I think, again, diabetes is all about hydration. I'm a diabetic. I know this. I mean, it's all about, you've never seen me walk in the studio without drinking something.
You are,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Diabetic Club. We're going to make T-shirts. It's all about hydration. It really is, because diabetes and that high sugar, and even if you take your medicines well, every diabetic knows this, your sugar is going to run high sometimes. And man, that is just dehydrating. So you have to keep up with your fluids. You have to realize when you don't feel well. Anybody who's an experienced diabetic, they know it. They know when they don't feel well. They know when they're getting dehydrated. Don't ignore it.
You must have you had a moment where you've been like, uh-oh, I didn't prep the way I should have?
You know,
what do you do?
Well, it's hard to play catch up.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And, my family would tell me that I was diagnosed probably 30 years ago. And they would tell you I had been a diabetic at least 32 years before, because you just don't feel well, and you just don't know what it means. Once you're diabetic, you know what it means. Once you're diagnosed, and you just got to pay attention to your body.
Thanks for being here with us today.
Sure, absolutely.
Always good to see you, Dr. Castro. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of our experts today. And remember, we have you covered at the World Cup, bringing you the very latest health updates in our live shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Our next show focuses on how lack of sleep and jet lag can derail celebrations and affect the body. We also put together some quick videos to help with everything from emergency care to staying healthy in the heat. And we've got some travel tips in there too. You can find those on our website. That information is there on your screen. Then after that, it's an encore episode of the Morning Medical Update about a brother's love and a second chance at life. When a rare blood cancer turned aggressive, Jim Gordon needed a bone marrow transplant to live. The search for a donor led to someone who'd been by his side his entire life, his younger brother, Dan. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here Wednesday at 8.
Heat and humidity can make you seriously sick, and unfortunately, Kansas City offers both during the summer. I'm Dr. Brian Beaver, emergency medicine and EMS specialist. I'm also Host City Medical Lead. In this video, I'll review the signs of heat illness, also called hyperthermia, and I'll offer you advice for yourself and how to recognize the warning signs in others. Early signs of heat illness include fatigue, thirst, headache, and dizziness. As it gets worse, nausea, muscle cramps, and heavy sweating can follow. Severe symptoms include confusion, vomiting, or fainting, and that's when it becomes an emergency. Here's another tip. Keep an eye on your wearable technologies. If your heart rate is rising, that's an early danger sign. That's because your heart pumps harder and faster when it's stressed by the heat. It might be a good question to ask if you're helping a person overcome by heat. When someone shows signs of heat illness, get them indoors right away to help them quickly reduce their core body temperature. Cool them down with ice packs or wet towels and give them water if they're able to drink. If they are confused and can't continue their activity or pass out, this is a medical emergency and we need to take immediate action. Watch out for young children and older adults. They are more vulnerable to high heat and humidity. Infants are not able to regulate their temperature well and have trouble cooling off easily, while older adults often have circulation problems and a blunted thirst response. To avoid falling sick from high heat and humidity, here's my advice for you. Dress for the outdoors. Wear light, breathable, reflective clothing if possible. Cover your skin to protect against the heat and sunburn. Hydrate. You'll want to start the day before. Start drinking fluids before you feel thirsty, and water is best. Drink 3 to 4 cups of water every hour as a general rule. If you're sweating, you may need to also drink electrolytes, like those in sports drinks or electrolyte packets. Electrolytes replace sodium and other minerals lost through sweat. They also improve fluid absorption and help maintain blood volume and circulation. Don't overexert yourself in high temperatures. Take periodic breaks and get into air conditioning whenever possible. Remember this advice and consider the tools you need: a wet towel, water bottle, maybe a portable fan, if venturing out into summer heat and humidity. Sweating and feeling flushed are 2 symptoms you're getting overheated. Sweating is one survival tool. It's your body's built-in air conditioning. However, you can lose 1 to 2 liters of sweat per hour in high heat. Ever wonder why you're flushed when you're hot? That's another survival tool. It's called vasodilation. Your body increases circulation near the skin, allowing heat to escape into the air. One last tip. Remember, hot cars can be deadly. It's called the greenhouse effect. Heat becomes trapped. A car can reach 109 degrees in 20 minutes when it's just 80 degrees outside. If it's 90 degrees, it can top out at 160 degrees. Heat and humidity in the summertime is no joke. Stay cool and stay safe. We want to help protect you so you can continue to protect the community. Let's have a great World Cup.
Coming up today, cancer can't break a brother's bond. Their story and one man's path to survivorship after a rare cancer diagnosis. Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. It's a rare type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that's often mistaken for a rash or a sunburn. For years, that's what Jim Gordon thought it was. Turns out it was cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, a cancer that starts in the skin and in rare cases takes multiple treatment paths to control. For Jim, it would take that and some big help from his little brother.
Two brothers, 8 years apart, grew up in different phases of life.
I idolized him because he's a big older brother.
But always shared a deep bond.
You never know, Dan was a slacker.
That connection became life-saving when Jim Gordon faced a rare cancer diagnosis.
We thought it was a sunburn, and I went to a dermatologist, and she gave me some creams and lotions to take care of it. And then it came back, and she said, well, this shouldn't come back. So they did a little biopsy.
It was 2016 when Jim was diagnosed with cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, or CTCL.
It really didn't register at first. I don't know if I wasn't ready to hear it or what.
Jim began UV light therapy, much like a tanning booth, without the harmful UV rays, and later moved to photopheresis, where blood is treated with light and then returned to the body. When his doctor suggested a bone marrow transplant, Jim turned to his younger brother.
He said, I love you, and you're my brother, and I'll do whatever it takes.
I still do.
Yeah, thanks.
Testing confirmed Dan was a match. Of course, he had a few questions.
It was more like, well, is it going to hurt? But then they explained it's a little bit different process now, where they do it distally. They shoot you with some medication to help increase the amount of bone marrow in your blood system. With that explanation, it was, you know, I can do this.
Doctors explained that CTCL is rare, and it's even rarer for it to progress to the point of needing a bone marrow transplant.
One of the doctors used to say to me, we do 300 bone marrow transplants a year at KU Med and one for CTCL. So I won the lottery, I guess.
After the 2023 transplant came new challenges, but Jim's care team helped him stay positive.
It's unlike any place I've ever been, and when that I found everybody very willing to stop and talk, and so you're not just another patient.
Now retired after decades as a Presbyterian minister, Jim reflects on life, family, and faith.
Yeah, I feel good and feel amazed at how much better I feel than I did.
And Dan is simply grateful.
You do what you can for family, and I mean, I'm glad he's still around.
Yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yes, we are very glad he is still around. Jim is joining us here live in our studio, 2.5 years out from his bone marrow transplant. So glad to have you with us.
It's good to be with you.
Yes, it really is. We're also joined by two members of your care team that helped guide you through all of this ordeal. Dr. Sunil Abhyankar, hematologist and transplant specialist, and Ellen Klostermeyer, post-transplant nurse here at the health system and the Cancer Center. Glad to have both of you here with us.
Nice to be here.
Nice to have you. And Jim, you said you both were like, it's so nice to see you outside from underneath masks.
Yeah, I've never seen Ellen without a mask before. Which, yeah,
Here I am.
to her. Yeah.
Right? Well, yeah, because you're used to seeing her and staying safe behind masks and well protected.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And
That's right.
yeah, so there she is.
There she is.
In all
I
her
know.
glory, looking
Good to meet
beautiful
you.
today.
Good to meet you.
Yes, you too, Jim. Nice to meet you.
So let's start, Jim. You're 2.5 years post-transplant. Just how are you feeling today compared to back then?
I feel good. I feel a lot more energy than I had before the transplant and in the year of recovery after the transplant. I've never had any pain to speak of, mostly fatigue, but that's par for the course. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel good.
Doing good. Well, we like to hear that. Dr. Abhyankar, so CTCL often looks like eczema or a sunburn. That sounds like pretty manageable, something that we could work through. But what would prompt someone to go seek out a biopsy for that?
I think if someone has eczema or a rash, especially that is in the covered part of our body, and it's not getting better with topical treatments, then that would be a good time to see the dermatologist, the skin doctor.
So this started in the skin. So my question was, when I met Jim, was did that mean that he had a skin cancer, a type of skin cancer?
No, it's actually lymphoma.
Okay.
So it's a blood cancer, but for some reason, these cancer cells have a predisposition to get attracted to the skin. So these cells originate from our lymph nodes and our blood, and then they migrate to the skin, and they cause irritation of the skin. And itching is a main, very strong symptom of this condition. And in most of the cases, it stays in that fashion, controlled with topical medications and things like that.
So that was the initial treatment path. So that was like one of 3, correct? So talk us through that. He goes in, they give him these lotions.
Yeah, so
and
usually,
topicals.
you end up seeing the dermatologist, and all the treatments are topical based and creams, mostly steroid creams. There's also a vitamin A derivative that's as a cream, and then UV light, the kind that is not too damaging to the skin, so UVB light that some of patients are able to do at home. They have a kind of a machine at home, and they lay under the light. I don't remember if you had one at home too.
I did,
yeah.
after a while.
Yeah.
What was that like, doing the UV light treatment?
It was a lot easier at home. It was just 5 minutes as compared to driving down here, you know, several times a week.
So why didn't that work?
So in some situations, the disease just keeps progressing, and because we don't really have a cure for this condition, even when it's limited to the skin, we just manage it symptom-wise and prevent it from spreading, but there's no actual cure for it. In many patients that can go on for several years with topical treatments, UV treatments, and then at some point those stop to work. And also we may sometimes then notice that we detect these cells, the cancer cells, now in the blood.
But still, is it true that I understand it to be very rare for someone with this type of cancer to then ultimately need a bone marrow transplant?
Exactly, you're absolutely correct. And one of the reasons for that is most of the time when people are diagnosed with this condition is usually we are older, you know, like in the 70s usually, and high 60s, etc. So and then at that age it's difficult to proceed to a bone marrow transplant. And one of the reasons that we were able to proceed to a transplant in Jim's situation was because he was young, much young to get this condition. And of course, fortunately, he also had a brother who was a match. Yeah.
Well, he said he won the lottery. That was quite a positive way of looking at all of this, that he won the lottery.
Millions that I didn't receive. But
You got a bone marrow transplant instead of the millions.
That's right.
Good for you. We've got a little bit of video kind of showing how this all works, but this is not Jim getting a transplant here, but another patient undergoing a similar procedure. How do you determine when CTCL has progressed enough that a transplant becomes the best option and a path to possibly getting somebody into a type of remission state?
That's right. Well, we want it to be a cure, obviously, but getting to remission is the first part. So there could be several things that can happen. Firstly, the first common way would be that the lymphoma that involves the skin just keeps progressing and the treatments don't work, and it still stays in the skin. It doesn't go to the blood or maybe to the lymph nodes, but isn't causing the classic lymphoma symptoms, you know, that people with other types of lymphoma get. So by the way, the CTCL is a type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and it only accounts for about 3% of cases of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. So it's a very rare skin lymphoma. So when somebody's skin starts flaking and none of the treatments are controlling it, it gets very advanced, and if they are at a suitable age and they have an appropriate donor, then we can look at doing a transplant. And then in other situations, these cells that are in the skin, they can transform and become what is called a large cell lymphoma, which is what happened with one of the biopsies, showing that the cells were now behaving like a large cell lymphoma. And when they do that, it generally tends to be more aggressive, and that's when, you know, topical treatments or photophoresis does not work. And then we have to look at intravenous cancer type infusions, sometimes chemotherapy, and those treatments you can only keep doing for so many times. So that's the point at which we then start saying, should we take this person to a donor transplant?
So Jim, what do you remember about that conversation? We're now at this point where you're going to need a transplant.
Well, you can see Dr. Abiyankar has a very easy way of making difficult things easy to understand. And I also learned that he says, well, let's try this, or we'll think about this because we might need to do it later. And he's thinking, we'll probably need to do it later. And he said very early on, let's type you, cross-type you for a transplant in case we need to someday, down the road. And so when it came time to do it, I was ready to hear it. And so, that's one of the things I appreciated greatly about Ellen and Dr. Abiyankar is their compassion and leading me through this process I've never been through before, but is every day at work for them.
Yeah, we hear lots of good things about Ellen and Dr. A. And how great was it that he had a brother that was 8-9 years younger?
Exactly.
That very rarely happens that you have someone who's that much younger, and that must have really worked in his favor, right?
Absolutely, it did. Absolutely, it did. So that is very lucky, the 25% chance that your sibling would match with you, and then to have a younger sibling match with you. Young donors have more flexible, pliable lymphocytes, and so that's to advantage because less likely to cause complications. Yeah.
And Dan's doing well, your donor?
Yeah, he's doing very well. Yeah.
Good. He was ready to go. It's just what you do for brothers, right?
Yeah, that's right. I thought he'd need some time to think about it, but he said, I love you and we'll do this.
Yeah, that was great. Such a great guy. Ellen, what are those first weeks after a transplant? Because you're a post-transplant, very specific, nursing specialty, because you're taking care of these patients in these very precious moments after this transplant. What do those days look like for a patient like Jim?
Yeah, usually the first couple weeks post-transplant are in the hospital, and in Jim's case they were as well. You got out pretty early though, like around
3 total weeks.
Okay,
yeah. 4 and 2 weeks after,
including the prep chemo.
Yeah. Right.
So he came out pretty early, but regardless of how early you come out of the hospital, we're looking at 100 days of isolation. Which is you and your caregiver, which was your wife, Marcia. So just Jim and Marcia for 100 days, isolating themselves from family and friends, but also coming to clinic 2 to 3 times a week, blood draws, infusions when you need it, all that good stuff.
And so seeing you behind that mask,
right.
Well protected.
Yes, lots of time in clinic, yeah.
For sure. What are the biggest day-to-day challenges? I'll ask Jim, but I mean, what do you hear often from other patients too?
I mean, I think the isolation is the hardest part. 3 months is a long time to be away from your family, especially if you have children and grandkids. So I know that was a big challenge for Jim and for a lot of our patients, but it's a test to be with one person for 3 months. So I think if you can make it out alive, you're in good shape.
Yeah. Well, I bet when they see you, they're sure happy. You're like a new face. They're like, okay, we'll take it.
Clinic sounds like a chore, but sometimes I think if I was in that situation, I'd like the interaction.
For sure, Jim. Was it kind of like that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We've gotten to know all the doctors and nurses at the clinic, and who has a new dog, and who's pregnant, who's going to be married, and so that was our social life.
Yeah, it was like the little soap opera of your day. You just go and find out what's going on with the gals at clinic.
I know. We go 3 or 4 times a week, I think, the first period of time.
Gear up and go to clinic and get your fill. What was the toughest part, though, for you post-transplant? You're doing well today, but what were those tough days like?
Well, being with my wife alone for 3 months, it was a 3-month honeymoon. What can I say? Actually, she's much more detail-oriented and clean than I am, and so it was like waking up in a minefield every day. I mean, these things that could potentially, I had no immune system, caused me to be sick or even worse. So food and all preparation and all these things are very meticulous, and she was very good at that. But it was a challenge, and once we got to working together on it, it became a shared project.
I bet. But I mean, being a caretaker of someone who
it's a big commitment.
It is a big commitment.
And they wouldn't do the transplant without her signing to be my 24-hour caregiver.
Yeah, you've got to have buy-in from someone at home to really go through it, and you got to really have that emotional support from people on the other side, right, Ellen?
Oh, yeah.
It's important.
Absolutely.
It's important. we were talking about Dan, Dr. Abiyankar, Jim's brother, but why are siblings often the strongest match? And if you don't have a sibling, where do you go?
So a very good question. So 25% of the time, a sibling could be a perfect match. And perfect match means you inherited the same genes from mom and dad. And so that's why, but it's not like a twin, so you're not identical in that sense. You still have some differences, like different characteristics and different blood type maybe. But there are the major part of the immune system, the HLA and the immune system, you are matching. So that portends a very good outcome with the transplant. So when transplant was first being investigated, people did twin transplant because it was the best match. But they found out that the twin donor has the same immune system as the patient does, and so it didn't help the leukemia or the lymphoma. It relapsed. And then subsequently HLA tissue typing was discovered, and then now we know that the best possible donor would be a sibling, brother or sister, who is 100% HLA matched with the patient.
So now I met Dan's wife as well. I met Dan and Jim and both of their wives. And Dan's wife was like, oh, great, now there's two Dans walking around. Is that true? Is it like having two Dans now in the world?
I guess in the blood, yes.
In the blood, okay. Yeah. So kind of like that.
He likes to fish, and I have this great desire to fish now. I've never
Do you
fished
really?
in my life.
For real? Is that, okay. Okay. Those are questions I would have.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is interesting. You can pass allergies, So
pass allergies,
yeah.
okay.
And,
but not fishing.
Not fishing.
Okay.
Unless that's an allergy of some kind.
But you could maybe blame some weird habits you have now.
Oh, yeah, it's all Dan's fault.
I would blame everything on Dan from now on.
You're right, that's right.
Okay, that's my new advice.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about some symptoms, though, because that's something that we talked with Jim about. I want to walk through some of these symptoms of CTCL. Persistent rash, because let's go through these, because then we want people who are watching to know what to look for and when to go see a doctor. A rash that doesn't respond to these typical treatments. How does it look different? Does it respond, if you're going to go get over-the-counter medications, where do you see these rashes, Dr. A? Where would you see them on the body? Are they just randomly showing up, or is there a specific part of the body to look for them?
Yeah, they usually show up on the parts of the body that are covered with clothing. So like in the groin area, but also under, it could be the forearm that is covered and not exposed to the light. So that's where it kind of starts, and often that may be a reason why people don't want to say that they have a rash and stuff like that, and maybe
because there might be in a weird spot.
Yeah, might be in a weird spot, and then it's also known that the average time it takes for a person to then, yes, I had that rash 4 years back. It's between 4 and 6 years before actually a person then realize, this is, not a simple rash or eczema, but it is something more serious. And that's how long it even takes sometimes the medical establishment to get that diagnosis.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Especially if you're putting something on it, it goes
Right.
away, keeps coming back. Another symptom might be like a raised lump. When you say a raised lump, how raised, how big, what might that look like, and where might that be?
Yeah, so that would be a little unusual manifestation, but it can happen.
Okay.
So the CTCL goes this in stages, and one of the stages of the CTCL is having lumps or tumors in the skin. And unfortunately, in some patients, it may present like that with tumors in the skin. And these tumors usually can be very obvious. This is a bump on my skin, and it is usually it is like a solid bump. It's not like a liquid, like a cyst or anything like that. But sometimes it can be under the skin, and it can then be felt as a bump under the skin.
What about itching?
Itching is a very characteristic hallmark of CTCL.
Okay.
So along with the rash, there is itching. And when the rash gets generalized, then it causes itching of the whole body. That can be
Any other unusual symptoms to look out for or to go see a doctor for?
Those are the main ones, yeah.
Jim, do those sound pretty familiar to you?
Yeah. I initially didn't have a lot of rashes, and I had this weird sunburn on my hands, and it came back, and that's how they did the biopsy and discovered it. But near the end, my skin was very ragged, I guess, very fragile. the itching was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It's like scratching didn't help it. It was too deep to get at. It was just constant. Yeah.
You're like, I got to get in to see somebody.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
It's time. All right, if you have questions, use the chat on YouTube or Facebook. You can email the Medical News Network. That information is there on your screen. Dr. Abiancar, how does photopheresis work? Why is it a common bridge therapy before a transplant?
So photopheresis, so as I mentioned, some patients with CTCL, like in Jim's instance, also these lymphoma cells circulate in the blood. So the thought was, if UV light helps the skin, would UV light also help get rid of these cells in the blood? So this photopheresis was first devised at Yale, in Connecticut, and the basic principle of photopheresis is to isolate the white blood cells from our blood and expose the white blood cells to ultraviolet light. And while that is being done, you add a medicine that's called a photosensitizer that then makes the cells more sensitive to ultraviolet light. And by doing so, and exposing our white blood cells to UV light inside this machine, the cells get damaged, the lymphocytes get damaged, and these damaged lymphocytes then circulate back into the blood, and they cause a reaction of the immune system. And that ultimately is how photopheresis works.
Ellen, what lifestyle changes help protect the immune system in the second and third year post-transplant?
Typically around the second and third year, we're a little bit more lax on the things that you're able to do. You're able to be around your family more frequently, but there's always an element of like immunosuppression to what's going on with these patients. So we're supportive for how aggressive a patient wants to be. If they want to stay careful, we help them find ways to be careful around others. And if they want to be with their families and be out doing stuff back to normal, we try to help them find ways to make that safe. But we monitor the immune system closely. You get checked at minimum every year. So we're watching that closely, and then we can kind of give recommendations based on what all that looks like.
Jim, how did your faith and background as a minister shape the way you approached treatment and recovery?
Well, I was a minister for 36 years, and so I'm not surprised anymore by things that happen to people. I mean, life is hard, but God is good, and it's finding the balance of those two things. Life is hard as God is good. I mean, it's by whatever name we call God, but as Christians, particularly this time of year, celebrating that and the birth of Jesus, who was born homeless and became a refugee, born in a stable, yet God worked through him in a way that no one has ever seen.
Well, speaking of being a minister, you married your little brother off. And here's some photos I want to show. So I guess he was returning the favor by giving you his immune system all these years later. I think it's only fair that you married him all these years ago that he did return the favor. What a special moment to be married off by your older brother. Just what does he mean to you? I mean, back then, obviously, so much, but just now, so few people get to share a moment like this.
Yeah, I think I'm eternally grateful for what he did. And that's a picture of his son, Michael, who was married a couple of years ago. And his youngest daughter, Grace, is going to be married next year, and I hope to be a part of that as well. But yeah, we were obviously different ages. I was 18 going off to college. He was 10, doing whatever he did in third or fourth grade. And so it's only later in life, and particularly taking care of our mom, who's in memory care, and that's brought us closer together.
Well, it's just fantastic. We're just so glad that you're doing well. Ellen, what signs tell you that a patient's really turning the corner when they've gone through a big experience like this? We're looking at somebody who's 2.5 years out and just doing well, and just so grateful to be living life, but what tells you that someone's doing good?
I think that less clinic visits is an obvious
You see
way
them
to
less and
know.
less, so yeah,
when we
that's
get
a
to
good
the end of
sign.
yeah, when we get to the end of the visit,
Not that I don't like it.
no, I understand. And Dr. A says, we'll see you in a couple months. You know, that's a great sign.
Yes.
But I think hearing about all the stuff that Jim has going on and other patients' travel, like getting to hear about those types of things, being around your family for the holidays, I think it is an indicator to us that you're doing well.
Let's get to some questions from our viewers this morning. And Gene has a really good question. I'm glad he's asking this because we touched on this earlier. Would it be possible to have a transplant if you lived alone? And how do we help those patients?
That would be a tough situation to be in because going through the stem cell transplant, there are two kinds of transplant. The one is autologous stem cell transplant. And yes, autologous stem cell transplant can be done for if somebody, let's say, doesn't have any caregivers. But that will involve mainly admitting to the hospital for the duration of the transplant. Now, with the kind of transplant that Jim went through, which is a donor transplant, because the process of recovery takes many months afterwards, you need a caregiver support.
Okay.
So it could be it doesn't have to be one person. People, friends, or whoever.
Reach out.
Yeah,
Reach out to your circle of
Exactly.
friends, your community,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
band them together and make it work.
and then you can have a patchwork of like people who can help in the
Yes.
first 100 days of the transplant.
Just that 100 days.
Yes, right.
Get through that 100 days, right?
Right.
Nathaniel has a question. How long do you have to wait post-transplant to know if the bone marrow transplant is successful?
So depending upon how we do the transplant, like in Jim's situation, we checked in his blood from day 30 onwards, so a month after transplant. We checked to see whose DNA this was, and we kept monitoring that throughout the transplant. So even at day 30, you will find that the majority of the blood cells are the donor cells. And then over time, we want those cells to be 100% donor. So as early as 30 days after transplant, the cells that we see in the blood can be from the donor. And then long term, we keep checking that once a year till about 4 or 5 years after transplant, because beyond that, it's unlikely that that's going to change. Yeah.
Jeff wants to know, if someone doesn't have a family member that's a match, how long does it usually take to find a match?
You see, nowadays with the way we do the transplant, we work on finding a donor simultaneously. So we type the family members, we type children, younger children, or we type nephews and nieces, and then of course the donor registry. And we have like 25 million people on the donor registry who are volunteering to donate their bone marrow stem cells. So all this process occurs simultaneously. And then, and it takes 3 weeks or so to find all the information, get all the information from the family member typing, from the unrelated donor registry. And then we have this big meeting every Tuesday, multidisciplinary meeting, where we kind of go through the options, what donor option does the person have, and based on the donor's age, the donor's sex, the blood type, and then a virus called CMV exposure, we then determine what is the best donor for that particular person.
Yeah, I always call it like you have this like mission control
Yes.
upstairs on the floor where it's like everybody gets together. And you have this big team working, and it's not like, oh, option A didn't work, so let's hustle and try to find option B and then option C. Yeah. You already have these options laid out way in advance, so that when option A, B, or C doesn't work, you already have all these options working way ahead of time, right, Doc?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's really great to see, so you're ready to go. I have one more question, and I think this is important because we went over those rashes and the itching, but Brad is asking, if that rash does not go away, truly, how long should someone wait before they go to a dermatologist or seek a doctor?
Yeah, if the rash is not going away and you try topical steroids and other topical things, then you should not wait. Within a week or two, you should go and see even your primary care doctor.
Yeah, because anymore you can like take pictures of it, send it through my chart, just get some sort of opinion, get that conversation rolling. Okay, Ellen, what's the big takeaway from our conversation today? What do you want people to know?
Oh, that Jim is doing incredibly, that transplant's possible if you have a lot of support behind you, and Jim really did, so we're just happy that he's here and doing so well.
Well, thanks for all the work you do post-transplant for our patients. Jim, what's the big takeaway from your story? What do you want folks to know?
I think what I didn't realize until I was into it is that bone marrow transplant is a process. I mean, chemotherapy, radiation to prepare for the transplant itself, and isolation, hospitalization, isolation for months. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the other thing is you can't do it alone. Having a great care team is part of it. Having a great support network is another part of it, but just admitting that this is not something I can do by myself was humbling but important.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. We're just so glad you're doing well. Dr. Aviankar, what's the big takeaway today?
The big takeaway is having a positive attitude like Jim has had throughout. I feel all of us get inspiration from many of the patients who go through this, and admiring your strength and courage, not just physical strength, mental strength. And when you have complications and going through that, and having a good team who can take care of you, not just the medical part of things, but your financial piece, the social piece, the psychological piece. And we're fortunate that we have all those elements here to make the whole team go through transplant.
Thank you to all of you for being here with us today.